Hey team, so Capital's coalition just launched the Nature on the Balance Sheet initiative. Why launching a new initiative now?
I'd like you to first imagine that you're walking into the boardroom as a CFO and a key supplier on which a lot of your future value is dependent, that you haven't done any due diligence on, is showing signs of failing, and you've been underpaying them or not paying them at all. And to be able to replace the services that they're providing would be such a big CapEx expenditure that you'd go bankrupt. That's obviously nature. And that's not a message that you want to be bringing to your board. So if we're starting to see nature as one of the key suppliers of business, what do we need to recognize in our economic and financial systems to avoid those kinds of situations? And so as the Capitals Coalition, with the Land Banking Group, the Centre for Global Commons, and also Systemic, we've got together to start to explore that question in more detail. How can we start to have nature recognized on the balance sheet? Who's doing that kind of work at the moment? And how can we mobilize that enabling environment that needs to collaborate on this to make that a reality as well? A lot needs to change to have that value of nature put on the balance sheet.
So the initiative is about identifying these concrete assets that can be priced and integrated in the balance sheet, to give examples of what it would look like in practice?
Yeah, it's because at the moment, on a balance sheet, for example, you have land, you have the timber from the land, but within that are the natural services as well. They just aren't assigned a value.
Okay, so how is that different from what you previously worked on in terms of the natural capital protocol, which was also about valuing the natural capital in organizations?
So the natural capital protocol has fed directly into the TNFD. See, the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures has the state-of-the-art approach, the LEAP approach, to help organizations and financial institutions understand their impacts and dependencies, their risks and their opportunities. So it is a framework that covers a lot of the basis, and the Natural Capital Protocol is a core part of that. Now, nature on the balance sheet follows on from the TNFD approach. It really drives into that F piece, the financial disclosures. So how do these risks and opportunities manifest themselves into costs, liabilities, but also opportunities and benefits on things like balance sheets and profit and loss accounts?
If I'm a corporate and I'm starting in that business, I see that my industry is very heavily dependent on nature, right? Where do I start from?
So as a corporate or a financial institution, the very first overarching question that you should be asking yourself is, what is my interface with nature? It's the L, it's the locate part of TNFD. It's also called a materiality assessment, understanding where biodiversity and nature is very locally specific, it's very context specific. So understanding where that interface is relevant, depending on your business, depending on your portfolio. And you can do that to varying degrees. You don't have to immediately go for a full assessment of some of these fantastic case studies that we always use. You can do a high level materiality assessment. You can use free tools like Encore as well, which is recently updated. What I would say is, alongside that, if there's not a lot of understanding in your organization around this, capacity building is key. Bringing colleagues along, not keeping this only within the sustainability department, bringing in colleagues from finance, from strategy. If there's executive support for this, then things go a lot quicker.
And here we're talking for the nature and the balance sheets about the CFO, right? So what's in it for them to do that?
Yeah, it's really about future viability in a changing world. I don't need to stress probably the extent to which nature degradation is already impacting bottom lines and expenditure and reliance on ecosystem services and things like this. And so it's really around being able to make better informed decisions to create and preserve value for the organization. And I would stress that we can't assume that only financial related information will be sufficient to make those kinds of decisions. Now, I would like to caveat that with that I'm not here only to convince all the CFOs that they need to be doing this. but really here also to learn about what it is that they need to embed these processes more into their day-to-day work and help them understand. Because they are probably already seeing that there are material costs and liabilities happening. And so rather than seeing this as another thing to do, it's a way to bring together different challenges that they're already dealing with and create oversight and improve decision making.
Now, if we go back to this initial step of identifying materiality and then starting to integrate natural capital in decision making, can you give me a concrete example of a company, no need to name names, that has really fully accounted for nature in one way or another and has changed either its business model or its whole valuation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to stress that this organization has understood how to measure this interaction with nature before there have been frameworks or mandated processes. But the advantages of being a first mover in this space, for example, with a forestry company that we've worked closely with, is that they've managed to identify all the opportunities that are available with regards to investing in nature. They have a direct dependency on nature too, and they've been able to understand local carbon markets, generate forward-looking ecosystem service provision through the local markets as well, increase the resilience in the forest too through setting aside for conservation. So that's long-term value there. They've built brand value through doing this as well. So when eventually they sold the company, they were able to sell the company for a significant premium, not because it's recognized on the balance sheet, but because the value of the company had increased for their buyers based on those different implementation methods that they took.
What's the key message that you would give to a CFO in a corporate organization?
Yeah, well, if I've understood it correctly, I think a CFO's role is to preserve and create value for an organization. And I would say that nature risk is financial risk, but also opportunity. And in a changing world where we've recently crossed the 7th planetary boundary, taking into account all of the suppliers to an organization and dependencies within a portfolio, including nature, is going to be increasingly relevant. So stay curious, stay open about how the accounting profession might be able to evolve and adapt, and support those in your team to explore different opportunities within this space and let them evolve the accountancy profession with you.
Thank you.